At my son's engagement dinner, he looked me out of the family company until I apologized to his golden bride. Hi and welcome to my channel. I'm so glad to have you here.
You're done at Duncan until you apologize to Kristen. And I mean a real apology, in front of everyone at this table. That's what my son said to me. My 29-year-old son, at his own engagement dinner, in a restaurant I was paying for. I want you to sit with that for a second. The woman next to Kristen's mother, some aunt or cousin, I honestly couldn't tell you, leaned over and whispered loud enough for 3 tables to hear. That's Joanna. Wesley says she's been difficult about the company. Difficult? That's what we're calling it now. Building a company from a folding table in your garage, burying your husband, keeping the lights on through a recession, growing it to $3.2 million in annual revenue. Difficult. The restaurant was called, actually I won't name it. Kristen picked it. That tells you everything you need to know. The kind of place where the appetizers cost more than the entrees should, and the waiter introduces himself like he's auditioning for something. Here's what happened. 14 guests. Engagement dinner for Wesley and Kristen Mallory, the love of his life, the light of his world, the woman who'd been dating my son for exactly 8 months and had already rearranged his apartment, his wardrobe, his diet, and, apparently, his understanding of who actually owns Duncan Property Partners. Kristen stood up to give a toast, held her glass of Prosecco like she was accepting an award, and she said, "And I will never forget this. Wesley and I can't wait to take Duncan Property Partners into its next chapter." Its next chapter? I smiled. I did. I'm not a monster. But I also said calmly, pleasantly, with my napkin still in my lap, the company has a board and a managing partner. Let's keep tonight about love, not org charts. That's it. That's what I said. You'd think I called her a name. Kristen's bottom lip did that thing. That wobble. The one where you can't tell if it's real or if someone practiced it in a mirror. 2 seconds later, she was crying. Not loud, just enough. Wesley put his arm around her, shot me a look that could curdle milk, and steered me into the hallway by the restrooms. The hallway smelled like lavender, hand soap, and breadsticks. He was standing between me and the door like some kind of bouncer at a nightclub for disappointment. And that's when he said it, the line I started with. "You're done at Duncan until you apologize to Kristen." I looked at my son, the boy I drove to soccer practice for 9 years. The boy whose science fair project I glued back together at midnight, twice. The boy whose father left him 15% of a company and a set of cufflinks, and somehow he decided that made him CEO. I said one word, "All right." Not loud, not angry, not dramatic. I said all right the way you say all right when the mechanic tells you the repair is $3,000 and you already know you're buying a new car. Then I walked out, didn't slam the door, didn't flip a table. Didn't give Kristen the satisfaction of a scene. I drove home in my 2019 Subaru Outback with a crack in the dashboard from the summer heat and a gas tank on a quarter tank. I pulled into my driveway, sat in the car for a minute, looked at the house that Dale and I bought in 2011 with money we earned one property at a time. And I started thinking. I paid for that dinner, by the way. All $2,200 of it. 14 guests, a raw bar. 3 bottles of wine Wesley selected, because Kristen said she only drinks Italian reds now. 8 months ago, she was drinking White Claw at a pool party. But sure, Italian reds. Growth. You're welcome, Kristen. Let me back up. Duncan Property Partners didn't fall from the sky. It didn't get handed to anyone. It started in 2007 in a 2-car garage in Greenville, South Carolina, with a folding table, a Brother laser printer that jammed every 9 pages, and 2 people who didn't know what the word quit meant, Dale Duncan and me. Dale had been working in commercial real estate for a local firm that treated him like furniture. I was an office manager at a workers' comp insurance company, the kind of job where you know everybody's birthday and nobody knows yours. We were 34 and 36. We had a 10-year-old who thought he was too old for goodnight kisses, a mortgage, and $41,000 in savings. Dale came home one Tuesday, because all the worst and best decisions in my life have happened on Tuesdays, and said, "Joe, I want to start our own shop. Property management, commercial. I've got 3 owners who'll come with me." I said, "How much do we need?" He said, "Everything." So we did everything. I kept working my insurance job for the first 14 months while Dale hustled clients. I did the books after Wesley went to bed. Our first office was a rented room above a dry cleaner on Lawrence Road that smelled like chemicals and ambition. Our first year revenue was $68,000. I remember because I wrote that number on a sticky note and put it on our bathroom mirror. Dale drew an arrow pointing up next to it. By 2012, we had $11 million in commercial properties under management. By 2018, it was $34 million. Dale handled acquisitions and owner relations. I handled operations, financials, and client retention. We were a machine, a weird coffee-fueled, argues about spreadsheets at dinner machine, but a machine. Then March 2020 happened. Not what you think. Not the thing everyone talks about. Dale had an aneurysm, a brain aneurysm. At 49 years old, he was making scrambled eggs on a Sunday morning. He said, "Joe, we're out of hot sauce." And then he was on the floor. I was at the hospital in slippers because I didn't stop to put on shoes. The doctor came out and used words I don't remember. I remember the floor tiles. They were gray with little white specks. I counted 17 specks on the tile under my left foot. Dale was gone by noon. People told me to sell the company. My sister, my accountant, 2 of our 3 board members at the time. "You can't run this alone," they said. It was Dale's thing. Dale's thing. The company I had co-managed for 13 years was Dale's thing. I didn't sell. I restructured, hired Pam Lozano as CFO. She'd been our bookkeeper since 2012 and knew every number in that company like she'd given birth to them. I brought in Ray Ostrowski, Dale's old friend, cautious as a cat near water but honest as anyone I've ever met, as a board member with 13% equity. Then Denise Farrow, who'd worked with Dale at his first job, with 10%. I kept 62%. Managing partner. Revenue under Dale's last year, $1.8 million. Revenue 6 years later, $3.2 million. I didn't just keep the lights on, I installed better ones. Wesley joined the company in the summer of 2022. He'd been working at a logistics firm in Charlotte, hated it, called me crying at midnight on a Wednesday and said, "Mom, can I come home and work with you?" I said yes before he finished the sentence. First year, he was great. Showed up early, asked questions, respected the chain. I made him VP of Operations in January 2024. Gave him a real title, real salary, $112,000 a year. I was proud. Then June 2025, he brought Kristen Mallory to my backyard barbecue. She walked into my house and counted the rooms, out loud. 1, 2. "Oh, is that a separate dining room? 3. She asked me how much the house was worth. At a barbecue, while eating my potato salad. Dale always said you can tell everything about a person by what they ask first. Kristen's first question was about square footage. Her second was about the company. Her third was whether Wesley would eventually take over. Eventually. Like I was on my way out, like I was keeping the seat warm. Dale once wrote an operating agreement for Duncan Property Partners that had exit clauses that would make a divorce lawyer cry. At the time, I thought he was being paranoid. I'll get to that agreement later. It's important, trust me. By September 2025, Kristen had been dating my son for 3 months and was already on the payroll. I didn't know right away. I found out the way you find out most things at work. Somebody said the wrong thing to the right person. Pam was going through monthly disbursements and mentioned the Mallory invoice during our Monday meeting. She said it the way you mention a parking ticket. Routine, forgettable. I stopped her. "What Mallory invoice?" Pam's face went a color I'd describe as, "Oh no." She pulled up the entry. Mallory Creative LLC, $4,800 per month. Vendor category, brand consulting. I looked up Mallory Creative LLC that night. Registered in South Carolina 11 days before Kristen's first paycheck hit. The registered agent, and this is the part where I had to put my reading glasses down and pour myself something stronger than tea. The registered agent was Wesley Aaron Duncan. My son created a shell company for his girlfriend to pay her $4,800 a month out of my company and called it consulting. Now I know what you're thinking. Why didn't she just fire him? He's her son. You don't fire your son. You try to talk to him. And when talking doesn't work, you try harder. And when that doesn't work, you pour yourself a glass of wine, reorganize your spice rack at 11 p.m., and tell yourself he'll come to his senses. He did not come to his senses. I asked Wesley about Kristen's consulting fee. He leaned back in his office chair, the Herman Miller I bought for his birthday, mind you, and said, "Mom, she's doing real work. Social media, client outreach, brand positioning. Brand positioning for a commercial property management company in Greenville, South Carolina. We manage strip malls and office parks, not fashion labels." I went home and checked our Instagram. 4 posts total. One was a stock photo of a handshake. One was a picture of the office Christmas tree. One was an announcement about exciting changes coming soon with no details. And one, I promise you, I am not making this up, was a photo of Wesley's golden retriever sitting on an office chair with the caption, "Employee of the Month, $4,800 a month." For that, I've seen kids run better lemonade stands. At least they deliver the lemonade. It got worse. In November, Wesley signed a lease on a new office space, $7,200 a month, more than double our current rent of $3,400. He signed it without bringing it to the board, without telling me, without asking anyone. I found out because the new landlord called our main number asking who was going to co-sign the guarantee. The answer was nobody, because nobody knew about it. I tried one more time. Sat Wesley down in the conference room on a Thursday afternoon, brought coffee, kept my voice measured, laid out my concerns. The consulting fee had no deliverables. The lease was unauthorized. The expenses were adding up. He looked at me like I was speaking a language he didn't feel like learning. "Mom, you never accepted that Dad left me part of this company. You want to control everything. Kristen sees that even if you don't." I sat there. I didn't yell. I didn't cry. I pressed my fingernails into my palms so hard I left little half-moon marks that lasted 2 days. I said, "Wesley, I'm not trying to control anything. I'm trying to protect what your father and I built." He said, "It's not just yours anymore." He walked out, left his coffee untouched. The Herman Miller chair was still spinning. That week, Pam pulled me aside in the parking lot. She was holding her car keys so tight her knuckles were white. She said very quietly, "Joanna, I can't talk about this right now, but check the December disbursements." Then, even quieter, "I didn't say anything to you, please." I checked the December disbursements. There was a $6,400 payment to Mallory Creative LLC, not $4,800. The fee had gone up. Nobody told me. Nobody asked. And the registered agent on that LLC was still my son's name, sitting there in the South Carolina Secretary of State database like a confession in 12-point font. The night of the engagement dinner, I did not sleep. I sat at my kitchen table, the same oak table where Dale and I signed our first lease, where Wesley did his homework, where I ate cereal for dinner for about 6 straight months after Dale died, because cooking for one person felt like admitting something I wasn't ready to admit. The table had a coffee ring stain from 2014 that Dale always said he'd sand out. He never did. I never will. In front of me, the original operating agreement of Duncan Property Partners. 67 pages, Dale's handwriting in the margins. Blue ink. His handwriting looked like a doctor's, barely legible unless you'd spent 19 years reading his grocery lists. I hadn't read this document in full since 2020. After Dale died, the corporate attorney reviewed it and said everything was in order. I filed it in a fireproof safe in my closet, the one Dale bought at Lowe's for $89, because he always said Home Depot's safes felt cheap. That was Dale. Opinions about everything, including safe brands. I poured myself coffee, French press, the good stuff, not that pod garbage. At 2 a.m., when you're about to potentially blow up your relationship with your only child, you use the good coffee. There are rules. Page 41, Article 9. Founder's Exit Clause. Dale's handwriting in the margin. Insurance policy. Hope we never need it. I read it 3 times, then a 4th. Then I laughed, out loud, in my kitchen, at 2:30 in the morning. My neighbor's cat was staring at me through the window, and I did not care. Article 9, in plain English, said this: if a founding partner who serves as managing partner voluntarily resigns, 3 things happen automatically. First, a mandatory audit of every expenditure over $2,500 in the past 12 months that was not approved by a full board vote. Second, an immediate freeze on all personnel decisions made without board approval. Third, withdrawal of personal financial guarantees on the company's credit facilities within 90 days. Dale wrote this clause in 2007 because he was worried about a scenario where one of us left and the other started spending recklessly without oversight. He was protecting us from each other, or, more accurately, protecting the company from whoever stayed behind. Wesley locked me out of Duncan. He told me I was done until I apologized. He wanted me gone. He didn't realize that me being gone was the one thing that would turn every questionable decision he'd made in the past 6 months into a flashing red audit target. $33,600 to Mallory Creative LLC, $7,200 a month for an unauthorized office lease, $10,900 in equipment purchases. All of it, every cent, about to be spread out on a table under fluorescent lights for every board member to see. My son handed me a weapon and didn't even know he was holding one. At 4:47 a.m., and yes, I remember the exact time because I stared at the send button for 11 minutes, I emailed 3 people, Ray Ostrowski, Denise Farrow, and our corporate attorney, Alan Birch, whose email address I had to dig out of a folder because I hadn't contacted him directly in 2 years. Subject line: formal notice. Article 9, activation. The body was 4 sentences. I didn't explain, I didn't justify, I didn't plead. I cited the clause number, stated that my departure was voluntary, and requested acknowledgement of receipt. Then I closed my laptop, washed my coffee mug, dried it, and put it back in the cabinet. I went outside and sat on the front porch. It was still dark. The streetlight across the road was buzzing. It had been buzzing for 3 months, and I'd called the city twice. Nobody fixed it. Some things you just live with, some things you don't. At 11 a.m., my phone rang. Wesley. His voice was doing something I hadn't heard since he was 15 and crashed my car into a mailbox. That shaky, trying to sound calm thing that sounds like the opposite of calm. Mom, tell me you didn't send it. I was making a sandwich. Turkey and Swiss on sourdough, mustard, no mayo. I put the knife down. Send what? I knew what, but I wanted him to say it. The letter. Mom. The Article 9 letter. I sent it at 4:47 this morning. Silence. The kind of silence that has weight. And then, Kristen's voice in the background getting closer to the phone like a siren getting louder. What letter? Send what? Wesley, what is she talking about? She didn't know. Here's the thing about Kristen. She had read the operating agreement. She told Wesley about Article 12, the dilution clause, the one that outlines how shares could theoretically be redistributed. She'd found that one just fine, but she didn't read the document like a person. She searched it like someone Googling symptoms at midnight. She typed in what she wanted to find, jumped straight to the section about shares and dilution, and never bothered reading anything around it. Article 9 was titled Founder's Exit Clause. That didn't match what she was hunting for. So she skipped right past it. Kristen Mallory, brand consultant extraordinaire, employee of the month dog photographer, $4,800 a month strategic genius, didn't finish the homework. I picked my sandwich back up. Wesley, I said, you wanted me to say one word. I said one, just not the word you wanted. Okay, hold on a second. What would you have done? Seriously, would you have sent that letter? Or would you have tried to work it out? Tell me in the comments. And while you're at it, drop where you're watching from and what time it is there. I see every single one of you and I read them all. If you haven't subscribed yet, now's probably a good time. Because what Wesley does next is, well, you'll see. So, where was I? Right. Monday morning, I woke up to 3 texts from Wesley. The first one said, "Can we talk?" The second one said, "Seriously, Mom, call me." The third one, sent at 6:14 a.m., said, "You're making a huge mistake." A huge mistake. The boy who created a shell company for his girlfriend signed a lease without board approval and inflated consulting fees by 33% in 3 months. That boy was telling me about mistakes. I almost admired the confidence. Almost. I didn't call him back. I made oatmeal, fed my cat, a tabby named Receipts, because Dale named her when she was a kitten who kept sitting on his paperwork, and sat down to plan my next move. Step 1. I needed the financial data. All of it. 3 years of QuickBooks exports, 6 bank statements, every vendor invoice filed since Wesley became VP. Pam had access to everything. Pam was my way in. I called Pam at 9 a.m. She picked up on the 4th ring, and I could hear it in her breathing. She already knew. Joanna, I can't. Pam, I just need the exports and the bank. He changed my credentials. Monday morning, first thing, new passwords on everything, QuickBooks, the bank portal, even the shared drive. And he told me, she paused. I heard her swallow. He told me, if I give you anything, I'm terminated for cause. No severance, no reference. After 14 years. Dead end. The one person inside the company who knew where every dollar went, and Wesley had sealed her off like a witness in a mob trial. I sat on my couch for a while after that call. Receipts jumped on my lap and started kneading my thigh with her claws, which was painful but somehow appropriate. Then it got worse. Tuesday afternoon, Ray Ostrowski forwarded me an email Wesley had sent to the full board. Subject line, concerns about mom's well-being. I read it standing up in my kitchen, and I had to sit down halfway through. He wrote, my son wrote, that I hadn't been myself since Dale's passing, that I'd become increasingly hostile to change, that my behavior toward Kristen at the engagement dinner was erratic and alarming. He used the phrase, emotional instability. He recommended, and I quote, an emergency vote to appoint interim leadership while mom takes some time to rest. He wanted the board to vote me out, using my dead husband as the excuse. Ray's email to me said only, Joanna, I'm not voting for this, but you should know it happened. That night, Pam called me, crying. He's making me sign a statement that you've been erratic at work, difficult with staff, that I've witnessed concerning behavior. She blew her nose. Joanna, I have 2 kids in college. I can't. Don't sign it, I said. But I can't promise you anything right now, Pam. I'm sorry. I need to stop here for a second. This is the part I don't like telling, because for about 3 days, I genuinely thought I was the problem. I sat in my car in the parking lot for 35 minutes on Wednesday. Didn't go inside. Just sat there, engine off, hands on the steering wheel, staring at a shopping cart someone had left next to a fire hydrant. Maybe Wesley was right. Maybe I never let go after Dale. Maybe I was holding too tight. Maybe I was jealous of Kristen. Not of her specifically, but of the idea of her. Someone young and confident and certain about things. Maybe I was a 53-year-old woman who'd poured her whole life into a company and couldn't stand the thought that it might not need her anymore. My sister called while I was sitting there. I let it go to voicemail. She left a message that started with, Wesley called me and he's worried about you, sweetie. And I deleted it before she finished. For 3 days, I didn't open my laptop. I didn't check the operating agreement. I didn't call Ray or Denise or the attorney. I watched cooking competition shows and ate peanut butter out of the jar with a spoon. And I let my son's version of reality sit on my chest like a cinder block. Then Thursday night, I opened my email to delete the junk, and I saw a name in my inbox that snapped me back. Garrett Henderson. Garrett Henderson owns 11 commercial properties in the Greenville-Spartanburg corridor. His account generates $890,000 a year in management fees for Duncan Property Partners. That's 28% of our entire revenue from one client. Garrett has been with us since 2009. He came to Dale's funeral. He sent me a handwritten letter, not a card, a letter, 3 pages, fountain pen, after Dale died, telling me that if I ever needed anything, I should call. His email was 3 sentences. Joanna, I've been calling your office for a week and getting the runaround from some young man who doesn't seem to know what a cap rate is. Please advise me on whether I should be looking for new management. That was the cinder block coming off my chest. $890,000 a year, 28% of the company's revenue. And Wesley couldn't even return the man's phone calls properly. I wasn't the problem. I was the only thing keeping the roof on. I called Garrett back that evening, told him I was handling a transition. He said, Joanna, I work with you, not with a title, not with a logo, you. If you leave, I leave. Just tell me where to send the paperwork. I told him to sit tight. Then I poured a glass of wine, the cheap kind, from a box because the situation didn't deserve the good bottle yet, and started making calls. Ray first. Ray, I need a board meeting, a real one, and I need you there in person. Ray, being Ray, said 4 words. Tell me when and where. Denise, over video call from Asheville, said, I read Wesley's email about your well-being. It read like something his girlfriend wrote. The grammar was too good for Wesley. I laughed for the first time in a week. She wasn't wrong. Then, Friday evening, a knock on my door. Pam Lozano, standing on my porch, holding a flash drive in one hand and a bottle of cheap rosé in the other. He fired me, she said, this morning. Said I wasn't a culture fit after 14 years. 14 years, Joanna. I trained that boy how to use the copier. She held up the flash drive. 3 years of QuickBooks exports, 6 bank statements, every invoice Mallory Creative LLC ever submitted. I made copies before he changed my credentials. Monday morning, I knew he'd lock me out, so I copied everything Sunday night. I looked at her. This woman who had kept her head down, kept quiet, kept working while my son threatened her livelihood, and she'd been making backup copies the whole time. Not because I asked, because she knew. Pam, if he finds out you copied those, what's he going to do? Fire me twice. Come inside. I brought glasses. We sat at that oak table, the same one where I'd read Article 9 a week earlier, and we went through everything. $33,600 paid to Mallory Creative LLC over 6 months. Not a single deliverable. No reports, no analytics, no content calendar, no social media strategy document. Nothing. Just invoices with consulting services written on them, approved by Wesley, paid from the operating account. The new office lease, $7,200 a month, signed by Wesley alone. The current landlord had called 3 times asking about a cosigner. Nobody responded. And then, the one that made me set my wine glass down because my hand was shaking. 3 payments labeled office equipment. $4,200 in October. $3,800 in November, $2,900 in December. Total, $10,900. I called our office manager, well, former office manager, since it was just me and Pam now, and asked if any new equipment had arrived in the past 3 months. She said no, nothing. Pam and I looked at each other. $10,900 in equipment that never showed up at the office. We both knew where it was. Wesley and Kristen had moved into a new apartment in November. I'd seen the photos on Kristen's Instagram, the one she updated regularly, unlike the company's. Standing desk, ergonomic chair, dual monitors, brand new, all of it. I added it up. $33,600 plus the lease overage plus $10,900 in ghost equipment. Roughly $73,000 in unauthorized expenses in 6 months. $73,000. That's more than Dale and I spent in our entire first year of business. We started a company for less than what my son spent on his girlfriend and a nicer apartment. I put the flash drive in the fireproof safe next to the operating agreement, right next to Dale's cufflinks. Felt appropriate. The week after Pam showed up with that flash drive, 2 things happened that I couldn't have predicted. Both of them were Wesley's fault. Both of them made my job easier. The first, Kristen decided she could save the Henderson account. I don't know whose idea it was originally. Wesley told me later it was Kristen's. Kristen told the board it was Wesley's, which tells you everything about how that relationship works under pressure. But someone decided that the way to keep Garrett Henderson, a 61-year-old man who'd been in commercial real estate since before Kristen was born, was to take him to a networking dinner. A networking dinner. For a man who hates networking dinners. I could have told them that. I could have told them that Garrett eats lunch at the same deli counter 3 days a week and considers a networking event to be running into someone he knows at the hardware store. But nobody asked me. Kristen booked a table at an upscale place downtown, the kind with small plates and a cocktail menu that requires a glossary. She wore a blazer. She brought a folder. She had talking points. Garrett called me the next morning. Joanna, I went to that dinner because I respect you and you asked me to be polite. So I was polite. I sat through 40 minutes of a young woman telling me about brand alignment and stakeholder engagement synergies. I don't know what those words mean. I don't think she does either. He paused. Then I asked her one question. I said, "What's the cap rate on my Pelham Road property?" She looked at me like I'd asked her to do long division. The answer is 7.2%. You know that. I know that. She did not know that. She said she'd have to check. Joanna, this woman is supposed to be managing my $47 million in assets, and she doesn't know the cap rate on my biggest property. This has nothing to do with the story, but Garrett sent me flowers the next day, peonies, with a card that said, "Don't let the kids burn the house down." I kept that card in my wallet for months. The second thing Wesley did, and this one was worse, because it was cruel, and it was stupid, and it was both at the same time, he called Ray Ostrowski. Now, Ray had been neutral, uncomfortable, cautious, but neutral. He'd forwarded me Wesley's well-being email as a courtesy, but he hadn't taken sides. Ray was the kind of man who waited to see all the cards before he bet. Dale loved that about him. I did too. Wesley called Ray on a Thursday evening and said, and Ray told me this word for word, because Ray is the kind of man who remembers exact sentences. "Ray, if you don't vote to remove Mom's authority permanently, I'll push to have your shares bought out at book value. You know what that means. That's 30 cents on the dollar." He threatened him. Wesley threatened a 64-year-old man who'd been friends with his father for 20 years, over the phone, on a Thursday, like he was negotiating a used car deal. Ray's response was a masterpiece of restraint. "Wesley, I'm going to pretend you didn't say that, and I'm going to hang up now." Then Ray called me. "Joanna, your boy just threatened me. I've been patient, I've been fair, but that's done now." Pause. "I think it's time for that board meeting, and I think you should bring whatever Pam gave you." I stayed up until 2 a.m. putting together a presentation. Not fancy, just the numbers, printed on regular paper, organized in 3 manila folders. One for Ray, one for Denise, one for the record. The meeting was set for Friday, March 13th. Wesley didn't know about the flash drive. He didn't know about Henderson. He didn't know that Ray, the one man who could have kept him safe, was now the one calling for the meeting. He thought he was winning. That was the saddest part. Friday, March 13th, 2026. The old conference room at Duncan Property Partners, because Wesley never managed to move into the new office. The landlord refused to finalize the lease without my co-signature, and since Wesley had never bothered to tell me about it in the first place, I certainly wasn't going to offer it now. So there we were, same conference room, same water-stained ceiling tile in the corner, same framed photo of Dale and me at the grand opening in 2007, the one where we're both holding scissors and grinning like idiots in front of a ribbon that cost us $11. Present, me, Wesley, Kristen. Because Wesley insisted and nobody objected, which turned out to be a gift. Ray Ostrowski in person, wearing the same gray suit he wore to Dale's funeral. Denise Farrow on a laptop screen propped against a coffee mug. Alan Birch, our corporate attorney, sitting in the corner with a legal pad and the expression of a man who bills by the hour and has seen worse. Wesley walked in like he owned the room. He'd combed his hair differently. He was wearing Dale's watch, the Seiko that Dale wore every day for 11 years. I noticed because I'd been the one who bought it for Dale's 40th birthday. $275 at a jeweler in downtown Greenville. Wesley must have found it in the box of Dale's things I'd given him after the funeral. He sat across from me. Kristen sat next to him with a leather portfolio she'd never had before. I wondered briefly if the company had paid for it. Probably. I didn't make a speech. I didn't raise my voice. I opened 3 manila folders and placed one in front of Ray, one in front of the laptop for Denise, and kept one for myself. Mallory Creative LLC, I said. 6 payments between September 2025 and February 2026. $4,800 for the first 3 months, then $6,400 for the last 3. Total, $33,600. The LLC was registered by Wesley 11 days before the first payment. No deliverables were produced. No reports, no content, no strategy documents. I've included screenshots of the company Instagram as Exhibit B. 4 posts in 6 months. One of them is a photo of Wesley's dog. I heard Denise inhale through the laptop speaker. Ray didn't move. He was reading. Office lease. I continued. $7,200 per month. Signed by Wesley without board approval. Our current lease is $3,400. The new landlord has been requesting a co-signer for 3 months. No one responded. Equipment purchases. 3 invoices totaling $10,900. Categorized as office equipment. No corresponding equipment was received at this office. I've included a signed statement from our office manager confirming that no new equipment arrived during this period. I closed my folder. Total unauthorized expenditure over 6 months. Approximately $73,000. The room was very quiet. I could hear the HVAC system clicking the way it always did. Wesley's face had gone the color of old paper. "Mom, I'm not finished." He closed his mouth. "Wesley, you told me at your engagement dinner that I was done at Duncan until I apologized to Kristen. You locked me out. You wanted me gone." I folded my hands on the table. So I activated Article 9, the Founder's Exit Clause, written by your father in 2007. When a founding managing partner departs voluntarily, 3 things trigger automatically. Full audit of unauthorized expenditures, freeze on unapproved personnel decisions, and withdrawal of my personal guarantee on the company's $340,000 credit line. Kristen turned to Wesley. Her voice came out thin and tight. "You said the operating agreement was just boilerplate. You said it didn't matter." "Shut up, Kristen," Wesley said. And there it was, the first crack, the moment the partnership started eating itself. I could have enjoyed it. I'm not proud to admit that part of me did. But mostly, I just felt tired and clear. "Here's the thing I want everyone in this room to understand," I said. Kristen read the operating agreement. She found Article 12, the dilution clause. She was looking for ways to redistribute my shares. She searched the document for what she wanted, found it, and stopped reading. Article 9 was 5 pages later. The title, Founder's Exit Clause, didn't match what she was hunting for, so she skipped it. I looked at Kristen. She was staring at the table. "You went through that document looking for a weapon against me, and you were so focused on what you wanted to find that you walked right past the thing that would have told you exactly what happens when you push a founding partner out the door." Ray cleared his throat. "I've read the materials. I'd like to move that we take the following actions." He put on his reading glasses, the ones his wife picked out, the ones Dale used to joke made him look like a librarian with a bench press. 1. Reinstate Joanna Duncan as sole managing partner, effective immediately. 2. Launch a full independent financial audit of all company expenditures exceeding $2,500 over the past 12 months. 3. Terminate the consulting agreement with Mallory Creative LLC, effective immediately. 4. Suspend Wesley Duncan's authority to approve expenditures, sign contracts, or make personnel decisions, pending the audit results. 5. Require Wesley Duncan to provide a written plan for full repayment of all unauthorized expenditures within 60 days, or the board will refer the matter for legal action. Denise's voice came through the laptop. "Seconded." "All in favor?" 3 hands. Mine, Ray's. Denise's on screen. "Opposed?" Wesley raised his hand. It was shaking. "Motion carries 3-1. Ray took off his glasses. "Wesley, you're still employed. You still own 15%. But as of right now, you have the authority of an entry-level employee until this audit is complete. You don't sign anything. You don't approve anything. You don't hire anyone. And you owe this company a written apology to the board for misuse of company funds, delivered by end of business Monday." A written apology. My son, who told me I was done until I apologized, now had to write his own apology to keep his job. Kristen's consulting agreement terminated. Her access to company funds, gone. The position she'd been building for herself at Duncan Property Partners, it didn't exist anymore. She came looking for a seat at the table, and the table had been cleared. Wesley turned to Kristen. I expected anger. What I saw was worse. He looked at her the way you look at someone when you're calculating how much they cost you. Not love, math. Kristen saw it too. She picked up her leather portfolio, the one the company probably paid for, and walked out of the conference room without saying a word. She didn't slam the door. She didn't cry. She just left, like someone who understood very quickly that there was nothing left to collect. After the meeting, I called Garrett Henderson from my car. "Garrett, it's Joanna, I'm back." He laughed, a real laugh, the kind that comes from the gut. "I know. Ray already texted me. First text message that man has ever sent in his life, I think. Took him 40 minutes to type 6 words. What did he say? Joanna's back. Your buildings are fine." I sat in my car in the parking lot for a while after that. Not like the public's parking lot. That was defeat. This was something else. I wasn't crying. I wasn't celebrating. I was just sitting in the quiet, feeling the weight of everything that had happened settle into something I could carry. I was walking to my car when Wesley caught up to me. The sun was low and orange, and his shadow was longer than he deserved. "Mom, please, I'll fix it. I'll pay it back, every cent. Just don't do this to me." I stopped, turned around. He was standing under the awning with Dale's watch on his wrist, and for 1 second, just one, I saw the 10-year-old who glued his science project together wrong and looked at me with those same eyes. But then I remembered the email. Concerns about Mom's well-being. I remembered the word erratic. I remembered Pam crying on the phone because he threatened to fire her and then did it anyway. I remembered 14 people at a dinner table hearing my son tell me I was done. "You told me I was done at Duncan," I said, in front of 14 people, while I was wearing the dress I bought for your engagement dinner, and you used your father's death, my husband, to tell the board I was losing my mind. He opened his mouth. Nothing came out. "You wanted me to say one word to Kristen." "Sorry." Instead, I said one word to the board. "All right." I tilted my head. "And now you're the one writing apology letters to keep your job. Funny how that works." Wesley stood there. His phone buzzed. He looked at it. From where I was standing, I could see the name on the screen. Kristen. He declined the call. I unlocked my Subaru, opened the door, then turned back one last time. "Your father put Article 9 in that agreement to protect the company from exactly this. He just never thought it'd be his own son." I paused. "And Wesley?" Kristen read that operating agreement cover to cover, looking for a way to take what's mine. She found Article 12. She was so busy looking for her weapon that she walked right past the one your father built for me. I got in the car, turned the key, looked in the rearview mirror. Wesley was standing alone in the parking lot, arms at his sides, phone buzzing again. Behind him, through the glass doors of the office, I could see the framed photo of Dale and me at the grand opening. Scissors, ribbon, 2 idiots who had no idea what they were building. Kristen's car was already gone. You think this was intense? There's another story on your screen right now, and honestly, I think you might need it after this one. Click it. I'll be right there.